17 minutes past 8 o'clock, we do turn the pages to our Kickstarter this Tuesday morning here on Morning at NTV. I am Priscilla Regina Nadwoga. You can interact with us across our social media platforms where we are streaming live. And of course, we do have questions of engagement to which we call upon you to be the other voice on this table. Now, speaking of the table this morning, we get to look at the aftermath of the local council 2 elections that did take place across the country, over 10,000 parishes, and this was yesterday. Uganda having just completed yet another layer of this electoral journey. Yesterday, voters going back to the ballot, this time not to choose the president, neither to choose their member of parliament, but the people expected to represent them at parish as well as ward level. And that actually matters more, because if the presidential election tells us how Ugandans see the country, the LC2 election does tell us how something is supposed to be more intimate when it comes to the relationship of the central government and the local government. And one of the things that it brings us to light is, how do Ugandans feel about the government that is closest to them? Do they trust the political system? Are they voting alongside the party lines, or are they voting that people they know personally, or are they voting for people who are effective as far as extending the last of service delivery to the people is concerned? Or there's even a bigger question: are these grassroots elections quietly revealing frustrations that many have actually not been able to see visibly since the January general elections? Well, the timing is actually very significant. Uganda has just come through a highly contested national electoral season, the Electoral Commission then taking on to the country's grassroots, first with the LC1 elections that were conducted in July, and now the LC2 in August. LC1 process having covered 71,214 villages, with polling successfully completed at 70,079 of those polling stations. This is giving a 98.4%, while 1,135 villages required a repeat or a recount of the poll. And so this morning, we're asking ourselves a big question as far as this grassroots leadership is concerned. What can Uganda tell of its grassroots leadership? How impactful is it, or not even impactful for that matter, depending on how interactive you have been with it? And so to have this big picture in context, we get to have leaders that are joining us to give us a very interesting breakdown of how these elements are affecting you and I directly and indirectly, and how, better still, we can utilize them for our own good as a country. To my immediate left, I do have Job Akija, a governance researcher, policy analyst and civic activist, and of course with the national political lenses to this conversation. He is in the right seat to help us analyze governance at this layer of leadership. Job, good morning to you.
Good morning, Priscilla, and good morning, NTV viewers.
Did you participate in the LC1 election?
First of all, I need to say that we missed you guys.
And I'm happy that you are.
It feels like we never left.
And you're back, but we kept thinking about you and praying for you.
Thank you very much.
But yeah, indeed, I did take part in the LC1 elections. I did observe. Unfortunately, where I vote from is not where I stay. So as basically an observer. Yeah. And
from your observation, how was that level of participation?
I think it wasn't as good as it should have been, because this is a very important election, but the turnout was rather poor, and also the manner in which it was organized generally was poor. Because I mean, the LC1 is such a critical election. These are people who sign on our land agreements. There are people who give us letters of residence when we are standing surety for people when they are arrested. They are ones who confirm our residence. But also, these are people that we stay with, who are close to us. Now, when you organize an election like that by lining up, it clearly shows that you are really compromising it. You are taking away the right to secret ballot. I saw in one particular village, an LC1 chairperson went and disconnected one of the residents from electricity, because they said, "Now we are the ones who supply you power. You go and let the other person that you voted for give you power now. We are no longer giving it to you." So you have such conflicts that are being created because of a poorly organized election, yet that election is very, very important.
Okay.
So I think that was quite unfortunate.
Okay, with active participation, and of course for a party that did have good scooping both at LC1 and LC2, as of this morning, Fred Bahati joining us from the NRM camp. Good morning to you, Fred.
Yes, good morning, Priscilla and our dear viewers. My name is Fred Bahati, the chairman of Uganda NRM/LU, Voluntary Standby Task Force. This is a task force that traversed the entire country during the campaign, actually before and during the campaigns. First of all, I'm very happy to be here again. I think I last came on the morning shows like this one, I think around 2012, 2013 there about. I'm so glad. Personally, I participated in the LC1 elections of my village. And I think the view of lining up, to me, it's okay. Because, you know, whereas one can say, you know, it brings hatred or, you know, people know their supporters, even before the election day. Because, you know, these people, they are campaigning all the time, they're talking about it all the time. Yes, maybe it can escalate in a war on one or the other, but to me, it is the most transparent way of voting. Because, you know, voters nowadays also have become a problem. You know, they lie a lot, eh? You'll go, they will sing, dance for you.
Is the point of the election to judge the voter that they're lying, or for them to participate?
No, they must be honest. They must be honest. If you really support me with one heart. Yeah, but don't dance for me when I'm here. Priscilla comes to dance for her.
Is honesty what we are voting for, or we are voting for the leader? Because actually the honesty we should be voting for is to the leader, not to the voter.
True. Now, with the leaders, actually, it's good that you people have invited me at a time like this one when I'm proposing some amendments in especially the academic levels of leaders. Because your presentation put it that do really these leaders that we put in place, we vote for, create impact in line with service delivery, and, you know, and I'm adding in something to do with household income.
Okay, before we get into the household income, yesterday Ugandans having gone to the polls yet again, of course through the layer, LC1 now becoming the delegates to choose the LC2 chairpersons. This is at parish level and ward level. Yes. What did Uganda vote for yesterday exactly?
Of course they voted for their leaders, the immediate leaders. After the LC1, the immediate layer of leadership will be the LC2 or ward, as you say. And I want to appreciate Ugandans that whereas I haven't gotten the actual percentage of NRM stock PLU performance, but I think we're above 80 already. So that means that the local people still have trust in us as the NRM and PLU. And this gives us a smooth way, a smooth running of the 2031-36 term. Because once we have over 80% NRM today, and they are going to help us to implement our manifesto, especially the PDM program, then that means that 31-36 will be a walkover for President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni.
All right.
Or General MK.
All right, thank you so much, Fred. I'll come back to you to interrogate the smooth running, given the unveilings of the local government ministers and what is being unpacked as realities at local government level. Coming back to you, Job, as Fred has said that yesterday people were voting for leaders, but yet again we see another element that is causing more divide than unity, and yet at this layer of leadership, as you had alluded to, these are people who are intimate to us, who know us inside and out, socially, economically, and otherwise. So from what you witnessed yesterday, were people really voting for leaders, or was it yet another contestation of color? Political color, to be exact.
So first of all, what happened yesterday was the LC2 elections, which are held at college level. So I would also say it is wrong to actually even try to gauge that on party or even ideology, because the college elections, I mean the LC2 elections, which are conducted through colleges, are not necessarily a representation, because that is not really adult suffrage, whereby you have every citizen participating. It is people that are elected from the LC1 level that form the colleges. I think all the 11 members of the executive at LC1 level then move to the college, and then each one of them is a college. Then they go and they vote at LC2 level. So what goes on there, you can't really tell, because you know he is talking about citizens being accountable to our leaders, but we know that leaders actually are the least accountable to citizens. And so many things happen once leaders are elected. You know, they get compromised. So that really wouldn't give you a true picture or reflection of what the actual citizen, of the will of the actual citizen. But you see, listening to Mr. Bahati has sent me wondering how actually rigged the electoral process in Uganda is, because you can even clearly hear from what he's saying. He tries to bring in NRM and PLU at the same time, and he's saying this is a true reflection of NRM, and then he says PLU. So the question is, when these elections were taking place, where is the place of PLU in Uganda's democracy? It is not there. These are really imposters that are coming in and they are trying to occupy space. They're actually trying to usurp power from the NRM, which is the legally recognizable initiative. But I think for me, again, talking about the rigging of the political system in Uganda, I keep wondering, why is it that, first of all, these elections were not held for a very long time, almost for 3 decades, and yet these are very critical elections. And then when we held them, I think about 7 years back, I think 7 or so years back, they were also held in a certain manner, and then they were supposed to be held in 2023. And then we kept pushing them 6 times. And the excuse has always been that there's no money to conduct such important elections. So the question is, if indeed we argue that the LC1, the LC system actually is the bedrock of our democracy, why is it that we don't find them so important to allocate resources to conduct them? Meanwhile, in that same cycle of the 3 decades, we have been holding parliamentary elections, we've been holding presidential elections. And yet we say that the LC system is the bedrock of our democracy. So which means actually we have been rigging our democracy in the decentralization model that we are running. But then secondly, I understand that even the payments that are supposed to go to these LCs have just been released, I think, recently, just before the elections. They had areas for how long? For about 2 or so years? And they are not paid. These are important actors that are supposed to be offering services at the grassroots level.
To. I think they're the most faithful leaders. Their duties are not optional.
Yes.
Because society must function by their duties.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we are not paying them. Okay? What is that? Meanwhile, how much are they paid? 10,000 shillings.
Yes.
Just 10,000 shillings, and we are not paying them. Meanwhile, you have a member of parliament who is earning in excess of 50 million shillings. And for them, their money comes on the dot. And then, you look at the LC system as the channel through which we are delivering services. But again, I'm talking about the rigging of the democracy. When you do budget allocation every year, to the local government, for instance, you are allocating less than 10% of the national budget, of which almost 80% of that less than 10% of the national budget is actually going to recurrent expenditure. It is not even going to development. And then there's nothing going to the LC1 and LC2 level. Yet this is where service delivery is actually supposed to be happening. So when you find these LCs, roads are not constructed, drainages are not made, there's no electricity. Okay. Generally, you realize that these people have to actually go begging to this local government. So the question is, if this is an important location of service delivery, why are we not empowering these locations to ensure that, first of all, the officials in those locations are paid their dues on time, but also number 2, that they are given the resources and tools to be able to run services at that level. So I think for me, and then maybe finally, on the rigging of this democracy, I keep wondering, why is it? Because if this is the most important level, where even mobilization for government programs, and even by the way for elections, national elections, is supposed to be happening, why does this come at the tail end? Why don't the LC1, LC2 elections happen in the beginning? We start from the, we do bottom up.
That would
you
be
start with that
in form of a proposal.
You start with that, you do LC3, you do LC5, you do parliamentary, and then you do presidential. But you see, you read this process whereby you go, first of all, we had, I think, primaries, elections, and from what you saw, it's only NRM that was able to conduct these primaries at that level. Why? Because for the entire past 5 years, the NRM, the entire state machinery, has been deployed to stop NUP and other opposition parties from reaching the grassroots.
All right, thank you so much, Job. And your provocation really brings us into the other element of the discussion that we must be conversant or cognizant with, national politics versus the local priority and personality that we're talking about. I think one of the very fascinating things about the local council system is the voter actually knows his candidate, and the candidate knows their voter to the extent that they know that the voter was sick last week. They know the person living next door. They are known to the families of these people. They have resolved the disputes over the course of time that they've stayed or retained their power for over decades of years. And so we're looking to someone who's been very accessible to the community, very impactful to the community, because their services, I mean, the stamp is a necessary evil. You cannot do anything without the stamp. You cannot take any decision on anything community related without the consultation of local council. So it begs the question, are these local council level of elections a poor barometer of national politics? Fred?
Yes, true. It is, because there is nothing that takes place in this country without starting with the LC1. Be it government projects or programs, their implementations, wherever they are, they must be implemented within a certain LC1, okay? Setting or village or cell of sorts. You get the point. But I wanted to counter the narrative that in the PLU is, we are imposters, things like that. I think it is wrong, because we are a movement and we are children, we are sons and daughters of the NRM, so we are not imposters in any way. And when asking where we were in the elections, we were in them so much, by the way, because you cannot separate PLU from NRM. What he has said, I think we need to look at the LC, LC1s, LC2s, councillors to sub-county, councillors to the district, chairman LC3s, and chairman LC5, up to parliament, by the way. I have a thinking that some amendments must be done, okay, Priscilla, because all we want is to enhance service delivery, as you put it at the beginning. Number two, monitoring, okay, or supervision of government programs and projects. Now, when you look at our current law, or our current system, the requirement for an LC1 chairperson, the academic level or the academic requirement, what is it? Is there any? I think nothing. That's why I am writing a proposal that for us to realize a true and serious service delivery at the grassroots, at the cell, from the cell actually, or the village, we should look at the academic level of the office bearers, like I've mentioned them. And here I am saying, because you posed the question that really, do they give a picture, okay, of the national level, or a picture of what, the citizens...
When you say academic level, break it down.
What am I talking about here? I am proposing that from LC1, okay? Here is a proposal.
So from LC1?
From LC1 to Parliament, people must be having at least a bachelor's degree.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if that has not been applied at parliamentary level, then why would you want to impeach that on local council level?
You see,
1. 2, when we look at just the bare minimum of qualification for you to apply to be a member of parliament, it is not giving us the reward. What am I making reference to? The member of parliament who's earning over 40 to 50 million Ugandan shillings does not in any way directly relate to the people that they represent at the grassroots, the way the local council person does. They don't know their people, they don't know the actual struggles on ground. They simply come, get a few monies, buy ambulances for a particular hospital and do some drives, do some footballing tournaments here and there, and then they disappear. Exactly. And the next time they come back is 4 years later to seek for a re-election. And yet, according to the Electoral Commission, the bar that has been set for them is the bar. Now, the person you're talking about down here, his qualification may not be educational, but his qualification is the work that they're doing. And that work is effective, more effective than the member of parliament. So help me understand how a qualification educationally would make a difference.
Exactly. First of all, like I said, that there is no project or program which is implemented not at the LC1 level, but their level of understanding. Okay? 2, targets. All leadership levels, there must be set out targets.
Their level of understanding in terms of what?
In terms of government programs and projects. First of all, some of them, they don't know to read, or even when they know, they don't understand the English. And whatever that is implemented, be it a road...
Yeah, but at local council, why do I need to understand so much English?
But where is the road going to be done?
The road is not going to be done in English.
No, but look, you need to understand the budget, allocation, okay, the proposal of the road. You get the point. You need to understand, like the PDM program, what are the objectives of the PDM? Does this LC1...
I'm sorry, Fred, when my MP came to campaign in my area, they did not speak in English, or the candidates, they did not speak in English. They spoke in the local dialect, because that is how you best reach out to the people you're representing or you want to represent, which is a big advantage that LC leadership has. But let me turn to Job. I know just a minute. Let me pick the thoughts of Job on what your proposal is, that maybe qualification could be the disparity that we're dealing with here.
I did not explain it.
Just a minute.
First of all, Mr. Bahati, if you look at the 11th Parliament, this is the most educated parliament in the history of Uganda. But is also rated as the most incompetent that we have ever had. That you have people with PhDs and more than even one PhD, master's degrees and whatever. But the kinds of things they did in this country.
Like who in particular? Because once you say...
I'm not going into personalities, but I can tell if you look at the statistics, at least more than 80% of the people in that parliament actually had degrees, and yet the minimum qualification is A6. But if you look at the quality of bills that they passed, if you look at the quality of oversight, this parliament has been, you know it so well, that it was actually the most corrupt. So for me, in terms of leadership and being able to deliver, it's not about education or academic qualifications.
It is.
The other thing you need to know, Mr. Bhatt, and I'm sure you know this better than I do, that these academic qualifications, many people are even getting them from NASA and wherever. So if you're talking about having papers as the qualification, I think to be an LC1 chairperson, I think really we are trying to even water down the whole concept of LC representation.
No.
If you look at LC representation, this is where people are voting actually for competence, unlike member of parliament and even the presidential level, I would say. Because at LC1, they are looking at integrity, okay? They want to know that this person will vote for them. They are not going to be selling our land in the night, and then we come and we get evicted. that these people will be able to lobby for us for different things, because these are people who understand each other. So you're going to get your people from Kampala with their degrees coming to the local context, and they don't even understand, and they will even start buying these positions, and because they will also have procured academic qualifications, and they'll come and really water down the entire concept of local council elections. So for me, I'm really sorry to say that if we are looking at credentials, let's not look at academic. Just one
to respond. Yeah.
Actually, I am one of the people who has been a proponent of raising the bar in terms of who qualifies to even become member of parliament. And even LC1, I would actually be of the view that we could raise the bar. And how do we raise it? You raise it not by looking at academic qualifications. You look at track record, you look at integrity, you look at competence, and competence is not measured by a document, an academic document. You look at what someone has been able to do, you look at how they've been able to manage resources. If you've been put in charge of managing collections for burial, or managing collections for a wedding, how did you manage those resources? If someone has abused resources for a burial or for a wedding, those people don't need to be anywhere close to leadership. So for me, I think you need to be looking at things like that. Integrity, you need to look at what they've been able to do in the past, you need to look at their ideology at that level, and then you can say, okay, now we have raised the bar a bit higher. But let's not look at things like academic qualifications, because those things are procured. People even pretend to be going to class, and indeed they have a university degree, but when they have never attended class. If you get them and you start measuring them on the things that they supposed to have been studying, they will not. But also finally, let me ask you, Mr. Bahati. So if we are saying they should have an academic qualifications, and interestingly, you're talking about things like reading and writing. These are things which are taught in nursery and P1. Why does someone need a university degree? But also assuming, okay, we said, let us have a university qualification. What qualification are we looking at? Are we looking at a degree in medicine? No. Because these degrees are also different and they give you different competencies. Are we looking at medicine? Are we looking at engineering? Are we looking at political science? What are we looking at?
So those are the things that we should look at. By the way, I am talking about this from an informal point of view. First of all, I'm a scholar in leadership and governance. Okay? With a master's degree in leadership and governance. So whatever that I'm suggesting, I am not picking it from, somewhere that is not credible.
So what difference does this recommendation make?
What he has said, all what he has said, okay, are correct. Plus an academic qualification. Many LC1 chairmen are in court, some in prison, for having stamped on documents like sales agreements, okay, and documents they didn't understand. Number two, there is no government project or program which comes with no write-ups. You get? I'm looking at these people as the implementing level. LC1 is the implementing level of any government project, be it a road, electricity, water, whatever it is, whatever it can be. It must be implemented at a certain cell or village. You get the point? But there is no project, as I said, which has no documentations. First of all, these LC1 people see government people coming, maybe looking at surveying a road which they are going to construct. They don't know how much has been allocated.
So your argument is that if they have a qualification as high as a degree, their level of interpretation would suffice.
Exactly.
But then at the same time, the
other issues of integrity, honesty, blah blah, like I said,
but those are characters. You're talking about characters and personality, and those are inbuilt, and that is what is even more important over the academic qualification.
Exactly.
Because at the end of the day, even if you are the best engineer in the country, but you do not have integrity, then you cannot be a leader.
So
we're talking about leadership.
Priscilla, are we saying that you don't have engineers who have good character?
Just interrogating what you are saying, and I think it's something the job was also trying to bring out. The element of qualification. Why is it important? And because you stated that some local council leaders are behind bars right now simply because they signed on documents
they
had no understanding of, but they cannot go and study law. So you are saying that they should have a legal background in order for them to interpret the legalities that come with the documents they have to interact with in order to put pen and paper. I'm coming. You have talked about you know, government projects and programs that have to be dispensed. If someone did not have a, you know, a qualification backing in finance, in economics, they may not be understanding of the parish development model. That's the interpretation we are receiving. So I guess what we're really trying to say
that's not what
is
I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying as a person. I am not a lawyer, but you cannot bring me a document or a judgment and I fail to get 70% of it.
Exactly.
You get the point?
Exactly.
Why? Because I am educated.
So the local council leaders that we have today, they have actually had to learn on the job. Maybe thankful to the fact that they've even stayed on the job longer than they should have stayed. So but that's a debate that we cannot rest today, because I mean, at the end of the day, it's already a decision in pen and paper by law through the Electoral Commission laws that there are no qualifications per se at local council level. So even your recommendation would have to wait a span of consideration up to Parliament for that change to come through. But there's another change that can be considered right now, and that is the remuneration of these local leaders. These are people that you have put in a place of being prone to corruption simply because of paying them peanuts, and on top of paying them peanuts, delaying their peanuts or holding their peanuts as government for a long time, that puts them in a place of having to scratch elsewhere to feed. Hence, they're going to make people pay for the stamps and amount that they can decide for. So when the local government ministers are traversing the country and they're, you know, interacting with these LC leaders, and they have, there's proof that there's, you know, corruption at that level. Hasn't this corruption really been stimulated by the government?
No, I think you saw it is very unfortunate that I didn't get time to explain my proposal fully. But I'm proposing a salary of 500,000 for the chairperson LC1, this graduate. I am proposing that he must sign a contract, okay, with the government of targets in such a way that in his village, his or her village, is going to ensure that he comes up with projects, okay, projects which will realize income, household income, and in turn yield taxes. I did do some simple calculations because I haven't finished the proposal yet. I found that at most it will be about 65 billions for all of the levels that I've mentioned per month, which is about 800 billion a year. Okay? In only the space of 2 years, with these graduates going back to the villages, you know, when a graduate who has been in Kampala earning maybe less than 300, when he goes back to the village to contest and he goes through, he will look at what he can do in his village. First of all, to supplement his salary, and also to help the community, because he will sign a contract of 3 years. Okay. For which, if he doesn't perform it, he'll be, you know, the contract will be terminated, and hence a by-election. You get the point? Okay. So
does your member of parliament have the same
targets?
Recommendation?
Yeah, this is the proposal.
Are they given?
This is the proposal that I'm coming up with.
How do you propose it, again, looking at how the system operates? It's central government to local government. So how do you propose something at local government level that is not applied at central government level?
I am saying in my proposal, that, like I said, I didn't get time to explain it fully. I am saying that this should go from LC1 to Parliament. This business of senior 6.
Yeah, but we went from Parliament to local council, so why doesn't it start from Parliament?
Whichever way it begins from, either from Parliament coming down or from LC1, because this is a proposal which I will send to the President and also the Speaker of Parliament for consideration or for looking into. It can be polished, okay? But what I'm looking at is that, you know, programs of government have been in place. And the President has been complaining so much. He started with Ntanikwa, there came NADS, then Operation Wealth Creation, then now Emioga and PDM. You get? And he still wonders why poverty has persisted in the villages, in the household.
Let me return to Job because I think where we need to wind up from is the bigger question of decentralization, which still puzzles us as a country. Uganda's local government system is built around decentralization on paper, the idea that government should be brought closer to the people. But there is a fundamental contradiction on ground, as they would say. We elect these local leaders and then give them limited resources to deliver what voters should be expecting as efficient, effective service delivery. So are we genuinely decentralizing power from what realities we see on the ground, or are we actually decentralizing responsibility, as maybe has been alluded to by Fred, without sufficiently decentralizing resources?
Actually, what we are decentralizing is political patronage. Because if you look at the motivation behind even organizing, for instance, the LC system, it is really to create a patronage network, whereby the main work that these people are doing is politics, and not really necessarily service delivery. If you look at, yes, he's talking about programs like PDM and whatever, and we know it for a fact that when these programs go down to the grassroots, they actually are also political programs. They are not necessarily development programs, and that is why these programs fail.
I don't know in which way.
So people are given money.
Maybe Job can help me understand how they are political.
Allow him to submit.
Oh, I hope you won't interrupt me again, because I've not been interrupting you. So the point
given
is
a lot of time
that
than me, so.
the point is that when PDM money is sent down there, a Mioga, etc., and it is sent as political money, it can't deliver the development outcomes that on paper it is supposed to be delivering. Because we know it for a fact that when this money goes down there, it also goes there in colors, which is also quite unfortunate. In order for you to be approved to get it, we've been seeing that people are being registered in the yellow book, which is very unfortunate. Now, that is in terms of the programs that are coming from the central government. If you look at the local government level, like I said earlier, in this year, for instance, we are allocating about 8 trillion shillings. Our national budget is 84 trillion. 8 trillion is less than 10% of the national budget. Of that, about 80% is recurrent expenditure, meaning we are not actually giving real money to these people. So when we see the Minister of Local Government going around and then they are arresting people, they are getting people fired, you get the impression that these people actually indeed are fighting corruption, yet in reality, the money they are chasing is just really peanuts, about 2 trillion shillings that they actually are chasing.
In conclusion.
So for me, in conclusion, you find that actually you're not necessarily building, running a proper decentralization model, because all you have is an infrastructure, but it lacks the resources to be able to run as a proper decentralized government. And I think for me, if there are to be any reforms which need to be made,